Now imagine this for a moment. How much of your life has been spent running after something? Running after success, after recognition, after people who barely notice your effort. We tell ourselves that happiness waits just a little farther ahead. If we work harder, try harder, push harder, then maybe we will finally grasp it. Yet the strange truth is that the more we chase, the more restless the mind becomes. A person can spend years pursuing things that were never truly theirs to control. The opinions of others, the loyalty of friends, the outcomes of plans, the pace at which life unfolds. We stretch our hands toward these things as if they belong to us, but they slip through our fingers again and again. And with every failed attempt to hold them, the heart grows heavier. There comes a moment in a thoughtful life when a quiet question begins to rise within. What if the struggle itself is the problem? What if the constant chasing is what robs us of peace? Consider the calm of a still lake. When the surface is disturbed, it reflects nothing clearly. But when it becomes still, everything around it appears with perfect clarity. The mind works in much the same way. When it is consumed with pursuit, it loses its balance. When it learns to release its grip, it begins to see the world as it truly is. Letting go does not mean giving up on life. It does not mean abandoning effort or ambition. It means understanding what belongs to you and what never did. Your thoughts belong to you. Your actions belong to you. Your character belongs to you. But the reactions of others, the timing of success, and the unpredictable turns of fortune, these were never yours to command. Once this truth is understood, a strange kind of freedom begins to grow. The mind becomes lighter. The heart becomes steadier. You stop chasing approval and begin building self-respect. You stop forcing outcomes and start focusing on right action. And then something unexpected happens. The world no longer feels like a battlefield you must conquer. It becomes a place you can walk through with calm and dignity. What is meant to stay will stay. What is meant to leave will leave. And you remain the same, grounded, steady, and untroubled by the things that once pulled you in every direction. This is the quiet strength behind letting go. The moment when a person stops chasing the world and instead begins mastering the self. From the moment we begin to understand the world around us, we are quietly taught to chase. Chase success, chase approval, chase admiration, chase the attention of others. It is presented to us as the natural way of living, as if life itself were a race and peace waits somewhere at the finish line. So we run after recognition in our work, hoping that someone will notice our effort. We run after people, hoping they will value us as much as we value them. We run after achievements, believing that once we reach them, the restlessness inside us will finally disappear. Yet the strange thing about chasing is that it rarely ends. Each goal reached simply creates another. Each approval earned fades faster than we expect. Each person we try to hold on to seems to drift a little further away the harder we try. And slowly, almost without realizing it, the mind becomes tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, but a deeper exhaustion that settles quietly inside the heart. A person who constantly chases begins to measure their worth through things they cannot truly control. They watch the reactions of others closely, searching for signs of validation. They replay conversations in their mind, wondering if they said the right thing. They adjust themselves again and again, hoping to fit the expectations of those around them. Over time, this creates a subtle but powerful burden. The mind becomes a servant to circumstances, always reacting, always striving, always restless. There is also a quiet fear hidden within this chase. The fear that if we stop running, everything will fall apart. That if we stop seeking approval, we will be ignored. That if we stop pursuing recognition, we will be forgotten. So we continue moving, even when the pursuit brings little joy. We convince ourselves that this pressure is necessary, that exhaustion is simply the price of success. But if you observe carefully, you may notice something unsettling. Many who spend their lives chasing admiration never feel satisfied when they receive it. Many who run after status still feel insecure once they achieve it. The mind, once trained to chase, does not easily learn to rest. And so a person may appear successful on the outside, while carrying constant tension within. Their thoughts move endlessly from one desire to the next, from one expectation to another. They wake with urgency and sleep with worry. believing that if they slow down, they will lose something important. Yet what is quietly being lost each day is not opportunity, but peace. At some point in a thoughtful life, a person begins to notice a pattern. No matter how carefully they plan, no matter how strongly they desire a certain outcome, the world continues to move according to its own nature. People change their minds without warning. Opportunities appear and disappear without explanation. Effort does not always produce the results we expect. This realization can be unsettling at first, because it challenges something we quietly believed for a long time. The belief that if we try hard enough, we can control what happens around us. But life slowly teaches a different lesson. We cannot control the thoughts that arise in another person's mind. We cannot command someone to appreciate us, no matter how sincere our intentions are. We cannot force loyalty, affection, or respect simply through effort. Even the things we build with great care are not immune to the shifting winds of time and circumstance. Yet the mind resists accepting this truth. It clings to the illusion that control is possible if we simply push harder. When someone pulls away from us, we chase them with more effort. When recognition does not arrive, we double our attempts to earn it. When plans begin to collapse, we strain to hold them together. The struggle becomes exhausting, not because effort itself is wrong, but because the effort is directed toward things that were never fully within our reach. There is a quiet moment when clarity begins to form. It often arrives not with loud revelation, but with a gentle awareness. A person realizes that much of their frustration has come from trying to govern the behavior of others and the outcomes of events. They see how many sleepless thoughts were spent worrying about things that never belonged to their authority. Once this becomes clear, the mind begins to separate what is truly ours from what is not. Our judgments, our choices, our actions, these remain within our power. But the opinions of others, the results of our efforts, the unpredictable turns of life, these exist outside the boundaries of our control. Understanding this does not weaken a person. In truth, it removes a great weight from the mind. When we stop pretending that we command the world around us, we no longer exhaust ourselves fighting its nature. Instead, we begin to place our energy where it has meaning, within our own conduct, our own discipline, and the quiet shaping of our character. There is a common misunderstanding about letting go. Many people imagine it as a form of weakness, as if releasing attachment means surrendering to life without resistance or ambition. They believe that strength lies in holding on tightly to expectations, to outcomes, to the approval of others. But those who observe life carefully begin to see something different. Holding on too tightly often creates more suffering than it prevents. Attachment has a quiet way of turning ordinary experiences into sources of tension. When we attach ourselves to how people should treat us, we become disturbed when they act differently. When we attach ourselves to a particular result, every obstacle feels like a personal injustice. When we attach our worth to success or recognition, our peace rises and falls with circumstances that shift beyond our command. In this way, attachment binds the mind to constant disturbance. A person begins to move through life as if every moment carries a hidden risk. They guard their expectations carefully, fearing disappointment. They defend their plans stubbornly, fearing failure. And they protect their image in the eyes of others, fearing judgment. The more tightly they cling to these things, the more fragile their inner peace becomes. Letting go is not the absence of care. It is the presence of understanding. It is the quiet recognition that peace cannot survive if it depends entirely on things that change without our permission. A person who learns to release unnecessary attachment does not stop working toward meaningful goals. They simply stop tying their inner stability to the outcome. This creates a different kind of strength, one that does not break when circumstances shift. When you release the need for constant validation, criticism loses much of its power. When you release rigid expectations, disappointment loses its sharpest edge. When you release the belief that everything must unfold exactly as planned, the mind becomes flexible enough to adapt to whatever appears. Such a person moves through the world with a calmer spirit. They still act with effort and purpose, but their peace no longer depends on whether the world rewards them immediately. They can appreciate success without becoming arrogant, and they can endure setbacks without becoming bitter. Their stability comes not from controlling events, but from maintaining command over their own response. Over time, this quiet discipline reshapes the inner life. The mind becomes less reactive and more observant. Instead of clinging to every passing desire or fear, it begins to allow things to arrive and depart naturally. In this space, a deeper form of strength begins to grow. The strength that comes from knowing that nothing outside your character has the power to truly diminish you. There is a kind of freedom that many people search for in distant places, in wealth, in status, or in the approval of others. Yet this freedom does not arrive through possession or recognition. It appears quietly when the mind learns to release its grip on what it cannot command. The moment a person stops clinging to every expectation, something within them begins to loosen, like a knot that has been pulled tight for too long. For much of life, the mind behaves like a clenched fist. It tries to hold on to outcomes, to shape people's opinions, to secure certainty in an uncertain world. Every plan must unfold perfectly. Every effort must produce visible results. Every relationship must remain exactly as we imagine it should be. When reality moves in a different direction, frustration rises quickly. We feel wronged by circumstances, as if life itself has broken a promise. But life never promised such control. It only offered the opportunity to act with reason and integrity, while events continue according to their own nature. Once this is understood, the mind begins to soften its grip. Instead of tightening around every situation, it begins to open. In this openness, a different experience of life begins to unfold. The mind becomes less crowded with anxious predictions and regrets. It no longer spends endless hours replaying conversations or imagining outcomes that may never occur. Instead, attention returns to the present moment, where action is possible and clarity is available. When the mind stops clinging, it also stops resisting every small change. People will still come and go. Plans will still shift. Success will still arrive slowly, sometimes unexpectedly. But these movements no longer shake the inner balance as easily. They are seen as part of the natural rhythm of existence rather than as personal attacks on our expectations. This creates a quiet but powerful sense of space within the mind. In that space, patience grows. Gratitude becomes easier. Small moments of calm that once went unnoticed begin to reveal themselves. A walk, a conversation, a moment of stillness, these simple experiences regain their value when the mind is not constantly reaching for something beyond them. Acceptance also begins to replace constant resistance. This does not mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means recognizing the difference between responding wisely to life and fighting endlessly against its nature. The person who learns this distinction moves through challenges with steadiness rather than panic, and through success with humility rather than attachment. In this state, the mind becomes lighter, clearer, and far less burdened by the endless pressure to force life into a particular shape. There is a quiet paradox in life that many people discover only after years of effort and frustration. The more desperately we chase certain things, the more distant they seem to become. Recognition fades just when we think we have secured it. People withdraw when they feel pursued too intensely. Even success, when chased with restless urgency, often slips away or arrives without the satisfaction we imagined. This is because constant chasing carries a hidden tension. When the mind is driven by desperation, every action begins to feel forced. Every interaction becomes an attempt to gain something. Others sense this pressure, even if it is never spoken aloud. Instead of attracting opportunities and respect, the energy of constant pursuit can quietly push them away. Yet something interesting begins to happen when a person learns to step back from this endless chase. When the mind stops clinging to outcomes and focuses instead on steady effort and self-discipline, its energy changes. There is less urgency and more clarity. Actions become guided by principle rather than by fear of missing out or fear of being overlooked. A person who no longer chases approval speaks more honestly, because they are not constantly adjusting themselves to win favor. A person who no longer chases validation carries themselves with greater calm, because their worth is no longer measured by shifting opinions. This quiet confidence often earns more respect than desperate effort ever could. The same principle appears in many areas of life. When someone becomes deeply focused on mastering their craft than obsessing over recognition, their work improves naturally. When someone invests in becoming a thoughtful and steady person rather than chasing attention, people often begin to trust and value their presence. Opportunities tend to move toward those who act with consistency rather than those who pursue them with visible anxiety. This does not mean that life suddenly becomes effortless or that success appears without work. Effort remains necessary, and challenges continue to appear as they always have. But the quality of effort changes when it is no longer driven by restless chasing. It becomes calmer, more deliberate, and more sustainable. Over time, others begin to notice this steadiness. They sense that this person is not easily shaken by praise or criticism. They see someone who acts with purpose but without desperation. In a world where many are constantly chasing something just out of reach, the person who stands grounded and composed carries a quiet gravity that draws attention without seeking it. What once required exhausting pursuit begins to appear naturally around those who have learned the discipline of no longer running after everything that moves.